Great, so now we're going to download Visual Studio Code. If you already have it installed, please feel free to skip this section. To download Visual Studio Code, go to code.visualstudio.com. We can close the Python tab now. Go to code.visualstudio.com. And there you will see a very visible button prompting you to download Visual Studio Code for Windows. You can also download it for other platforms, and if you're working on a Mac, then you will see the option to download Visual Studio Code for Mac automatically. You can choose different versions here. The Insider's version is like a really updated version of Visual Studio Code with the latest features. And the stable version has the features that have already been tested, so I recommend installing the stable version. You have that for Mac, for Windows, and for Linux. Click on the arrow or click here on the main button, and you will see the screen. Thanks for downloading VS Code for Windows. Awesome, right? If the download doesn't start, then you can click this direct download link. And you will see the download starting right here below. It may take a few seconds or a few minutes depending on your internet connection, but the download will eventually be completed. Visual Studio Code is a lightweight and powerful source code editor. So basically we're going to use it as our main tool to write and run our code. Great, so now I have my executable file right here, my installer. To install it, I just need to double click on the file, like this, and then the first thing that you can see is the license agreement. Read this and then accept the agreement. Next, you have additional tasks like creating a desktop icon, and you have other tasks. It's very important too that you add this to your path, because it can be helpful later on if you want to work with a command line and Visual Studio Code, like if you want to open a file in Visual Studio Code from the command line. Always make sure that you check this, and you can also register this code editor as an editor for supported file types. Okay, and you can also create a desktop icon. I usually like to have this on my desktop. Then click Next, ready to install. Click Install to continue the installation, or click Back if you want to review or change any settings. Okay, then you click on Install, and from there the process should be very straightforward. After you complete the installation, you will see the icon. You should have a desktop icon because we selected this option. Double click on that, and you will see the initial Visual Studio Code window. I already have it installed, so let's go to VS Code. I will cancel the installation, and I will open Visual Studio Code. This is one of the most powerful, helpful, and amazing code editors that you can find in the developer community. We will be working with Visual Studio Code during the course, and you will learn how to do the basic things like creating a file, a folder, and different functionality that you can use. Great, so now you have Visual Studio Code and Python installed. Awesome! When you open Visual Studio Code for the first time, you may see a window here in the main panel of the code editor with different options and articles from Visual Studio Code. If you see that, just click on the X to close it. It should be right here on a little tab. So after we have that, now we can use Visual Studio Code, particularly the Explorer. If you click here on the sidebar, you can see that we currently don't have a folder open. We will create a folder for the course where we will keep our Python file. I already created that folder. It's in my documents and I named it Python YouTube Course. To open that folder, I go to File, then I select Open Folder. I find my folder, Python YouTube Course, and then, once I'm inside the folder and I see the name of the folder right here, I click on Select Folder. Great! This will ask you if you trust the authors of the file in this folder. Of course you trust the author of the files because that will be you. So, click here, yes, I trust the authors, and that will enable all the features of Visual Studio Code. After the folder is opened, you will see the name of the folder right here at the top and here in the Explorer. And this panel will be initially empty, because currently it doesn't have a file. But if we right click on it and we select New File, we can create a new Python file. To create this file, we just need to give it a name, like program, or script, or app, any name that you think could be descriptive for your particular program, and then we write the extension .py. .py is the extension that we use to create a Python file. If we write that and then we press enter, we will see our Python file opened in the code editor. And if you go to that file in your file explorer, you will see it there too. So that's really cool. You've just created your first Python file, so congratulations. Since we have our first Python file, we can run our first Hello World program. A Hello World program is a program that prints Hello World. That is a tradition in the developer community, because it just takes one line of code, usually. So let's do it. In Python, to show Hello World in the command line, we just write print, and then within quotation marks we write the text that we want to show, Hello World. Then we save the file. If we make some change in the file, we will see a white circle right here instead of an X. That is telling us that we have unsaved changes in our file. So to save those changes, we can use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl+S, and that will replace the white circle with a little X right here. Let's open the terminal, where we will have our command line. To open the terminal, we can use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl and the backtick, and we will see the terminal. If you've never worked with the terminal before, that's totally okay. I will show you how to do that step by step. Basically, what you can see right here is like an introduction to the tool that you are using, Windows PowerShell, and this is the path to the folder that you currently have opened. This is where you will run all the commands that you will write right here on this side of the angle bracket. This path will be assigned automatically in the terminal if you have your folder opened in Visual Studio Code. So you can see that this is the same name of the folder that we have right here, Python YouTube course. If we run a command right here, if we write something like Python here, that command will be executed within this folder on that particular path. Great, so don't be afraid to use the terminal. It's a really awesome tool. Once we have the terminal ready and we are inside PowerShell, to run our program we just need to write Python, which is the command. Remember that we added Python to path to have access to this command in the command line. And then we write the name of the Python file that we want to run, in this case program.py. Then we press enter, and voila, we see Hello World right here. Exactly what we wrote within the quotes. Great! It's time to celebrate because you just wrote your first Hello World program in Python, a tradition in the developer community. Great work. Okay, so now that we have that ready, we can start talking about our first main concept in programming, variables. So let's close the terminal. We can kill the terminal and delete all its previous commands and output by clicking here on the trash can. This option is Kill Terminal. It basically deletes everything that you ran previously in that particular terminal. So if you open it again with Control and the backtick, you don't see that history of commands and outputs that you ran previously. Okay, so let's kill the terminal for now, and let's delete our line of code, and save the file with Ctrl+S. You can also use the options from this menu. To save, you can go to File and Save. But of course, the keyboard shortcuts will save you a lot of time while you're coding.